This guy was just your typical salaryman. While eating dinner, he fell asleep, and the next thing he knows, he is in a young boy's body named Wendelin, and in a luxurious wedding ceremony for his eldest brother, Kurt. Wendelin's father has him introduce himself, but since he is confused and another brother, Erich, does so on his behalf. Wendelin learns that they are nobles, and in that case, he is set for life. But the next day, Wendelin is stumped that they're living such a poor life. To his shock, they are actually poor nobles, and they just put on a grand show for the wedding. Furthermore, Wendelin learns that he has a lot more brothers, so he himself, as the youngest, is the 8th son. Then his other brothers soon start to leave the place because of the agreement. When Kurt gets married, they'll just get some monetary compensation and leave the place. They will also cease to be nobles and find their own path in life. Wendelin, of course, will stay behind since he is only a kid. Looking through his father's library, he stumbles upon a crystal ball that is supposed to test one's magic aptitude. Not putting much faith in it, it glows like a rainbow. It means Wendelin is magically talented. Wendelin is trying to look for books on magic, but her father says he has none, because he can't read. While in the forest to gather wood, Alfred Rainford, who is a magician, meets Wendelin. Alfred felt his magic power, and could train him to become one. So he agitates a wild boar to attack them as their first lesson for clueless Wendelin to bring out his magic. And nothing happens. Alfred demonstrates his awesome magic to dispose of the boar. He assures Wendelin that, as the former court magician, he can turn him into a far greater magician. Alfred claims he doesn't want money in return. He just wants a disciple to pass on his magic. Of course, Wendelin must keep this magic business a secret, as magicians have a very high value, to the point where they can be the deciding factor in succession issues. Wendelin himself can be a lord if he wants to. Wendelin learns fast but notices that Kurt has been keeping an eye on him. Alfred takes it that he suspects he can use magic and that it is only natural that he is fearful he might lose his succession rights. As Wendelin doesn't harbor any intention to become a lord, Alfred suggests that he become an adventurer, as the big, wide world out there has a lot to offer him. Wendelin talks to his family about this. While this means he might leave their domain, his father doesn't have any money to send him to an adventurer's academy. Alfred tells us that in the mercantile town of Breitberg, over the ridge, there are merchant guilds that children can enter. Since it is very far away, Wendelin needs to master travel magic. Unknown to Wendelin, Alfred is suffering from a curse. Since it looks like he can no longer suppress it, he tells him that tomorrow's lesson will be the final one. He's got the basics covered, so the rest is up to him. That night, Wendelin heard his father talking about the whispering dead. Corpses that look like humans will eventually turn them into mindless zombies and attack humans. So Wendelin goes to see Alfred that night and warns him about this. Alfred admits that he is the rumored whispering dead. 5 years ago, the previous duke sent him and his army to look for a cure for his son's illness in the enchanted forest. Naturally, they were overwhelmed. Because of Alfred's regret, he became the whispering dead. But they can only pass on when their wish is fulfilled. Now that he has met someone to pass on his magic, he can now move on. Hence Alfred's final lesson is also Wendelin's final test, to exorcise him from this curse. Reluctantly, Wendelin learns his holy magic on the spot, with all the tears running from his eyes, finally gives his master the peace he wants. His last advice is to do his best and live wisely. A few years later, Wendelin leaves his family to start his life's new adventure. Now that Wendelin has enrolled himself in an adventurer's academy, his magic is top-notch, but his communication skills are practically zero. That is what 7 years of self-isolation did to him. Apparently the other classmates aren't talking to him because of the misconception that Wendelin might be assessing them to see if they are worthy to join his party. After all, there are rumors that he was trained by a great magician until there was nothing left to teach him. Sharing such thoughts are Elvin, Lena, and Louise. They think about wanting to form a party with him, but they need to prove themselves. As the teacher talks about the hunting mission for them to earn extra money, whoever brings back the best hunt gets to join him. So everybody brings back their hunted beast. But Wendelin Hunt has so many. It is then that many of his classmates decide to give up on joining his party. They're way out of his league and not worth the effort. Unless, of course, you are the first son, as it is this world's custom that the eldest son inherits everything. The trio aren't giving up, though. Despite this, they understand what it's like to be lower in the family. In fact, as Louise explains, she is more powerful and magically gifted than her family. They exiled her when they found out, so she had to train in secret. Erwin and his companions attempt to hunt wolves but are overwhelmed by their numbers. They would have been the wolves' meat supply for a year if Wendelin hadn't been nearby. Just when the trio are about to give up their dreams of partying with him, news breaks that the students are invited to a garden party hosted by the Duke of Bleichroder, Amadeus Freitag von Bleichroder. Louise is excited, but others pour cold water on this. They think they are only extras, as the main goal is to get Wendelin. At the party, true enough, Amadeus wants to talk to Wendelin privately. However, Wendelin wants the trio to tag along too because they are his party members. Wendelin is brought to meet his court magician, Brantag Ringstad, who is Alfred's master. Brantag can tell Wendelin is Alfred's disciple after putting the pieces together. After Wendelin confirms this, Brantag wants to know Alfred's last moments. Brantag thanks him for putting Alfred at ease. Later, outside, the trio realize they don't know much about Wendelin's history, and that he is like them. When Wendelin reunites with them, they apologize that they can't join him because they had a goal of just using him as a tool to further their positions. Wendelin also admitted something like that. The reason he had them come with him was not because he considered them party members yet, but because he was scared to be alone. But now he wants them to team up as a party because he had fun with them. After all, what good is an adventure if you don't have friends to share it with? More good news is Wendelin has returned Alfred's possessions. He will be rewarded. So if 1,000 gold coins are equivalent to 1,000,000 yen, Wendelin is a billionaire. That's not all. He now inherits Alfred's huge estate. Wendelin is invited to Erich's wedding. He is allowed to bring his friends. Brantag tags along only because he has official reporting business. As Erwin is scared of flying in this magic ship, Brantag assures him it will not fall, unless an undead bone dragon attacks it. Everybody thought Brantag would be their hero, but unfortunately, he can't use holy magic. It looks like it is up to Wendelin. With Brantag's reinforced magic shield barrier, he manages to defeat it and collect its bones. Brantag then introduces Wendelin to Eruterio Marchin, who was once in his adventuring party but is now into some business politics. Upon arriving in Stuttgart, royal knights want Wendelin to come see the king as news of his heroics has spread. So his friends get to go first to Erich's place, while Wendelin is stuck with Eruterio at the palace. The king recognizes Wendelin's efforts and rewards him with the rank of baronet. Then high-ranking officials argue over how Wendelin should be paid, until Cardinal Hohenheim intervenes to compromise to avoid further embarrassment. Wendelin's life is about to get even more hectic because there are lunatics trying to show off in hopes of being recruited as his disciple. Wendelin finally attends Erich's wedding. However, their own family hasn't sent any gifts because, according to Kurt's letter, they simply have no money. But this may be seen as rude to the Bleichroder Duke, under whom the family is a vassal. They're making him look stingy. To solve this, Wendelin has to use his money to pay up front. The wedding proceeds smoothly. Later, Wendelin has Eruterio get him some comb rice. Wendelin makes some great miso soup for dinner. Thinking about the position of being a noble, it might bring a lot of trouble, so he wants to get others to believe he is the fermenting kind of noble. Wendelin visits Hohenheim for some business arrangements. The cardinal introduces his granddaughter, Elise the saint who possesses great holy powers in healing, and there are many who are asking for her hand in marriage. And then Wendelin jokes that he too could join in the competition to marry her. Wendelin is only laughing when he realizes he just entered into an engagement with Elise. Wendelin is worried, but apparently he doesn't know better since he just learned that this is quite the custom in this world. After that, Wendelin dresses like a clown to avoid being recognized by potential retainers. But he is attracting unlikely stares. But a potential retainer recognizes him by his teeth, and now everyone knows who he is, so Wendelin uses instant teleportation to avoid it. Back home, Erwin suggests he become his retainer to tell other potentials off. Wendelin agrees. Wendelin goes to talk to Elise about the engagement, but she's such a nice girl. Ina and Louise are shocked to learn Erwin has become Wendelin's retainer. They fear now that because he ranks above them, he'll put them hard to work. The only way to outrank him is to become concubines of Wendelin. Louise tries some weird dancing to seduce Wendelin. Obviously, he doesn't get it and leaves. Wendelin receives an invitation to have dinner with Elise. Normal nice dinner, but the butler feels it would be a shame to have ended it like that, so they go shopping for an engagement ring to commemorate this. Because Wendelin needs to show his manly side, he agrees to buy this very expensive gemstone ring. Elise thinks he chose it because it allows her to store great magic that will be useful to him in the future. Actually, he doesn't know. He just thought it looked good on her. He then praises her for being a great girl, as he has been down recently from being overwhelmed by her great achievements. Using the ring, it creates a great view of the universe. It was definitely a night to remember. The butler talks to Hohenheim about choosing Wendelin as Elise's husband. He understands now because he treats her not by her title but as a normal girl. Elise visits Louise, Lena, and Erwin to learn exactly what sort of man Wendelin, while the king asks Wendelin and Brantak to slay an ancient dragon, Gregorland, as the kingdom needs his territory for farmland. He also sends Klimt Christoph von Armstrong, his enthusiastic and brawny court wizard. Meanwhile, as the death of Gregorlin could cause nearby monsters to grow bolder, Erwin, Louise, and Lena hire the unemployed adventurers to help guard the area with Elise and the church's clergy as their healers. Gwendolyn and Armstrong defeat Gregor, and Gwendolyn collect the valuable body. Sensing Gregorlin's death, the monsters attack the soldiers, forcing Gwendolyn and his friends to join the battle. Elise, knowing Gwendolyn considers himself cowardly, but joins the battle anyway, is relieved Gwendolyn is a truly good man and finally passes out from exhaustion after Gwendolyn returns safely. Gwendolyn looks after her until she awakens, only to learn Armstrong is her uncle. The next day, Elise asks if Louise and Lena are also his fiancées since they all live in the same house, which Gwendolyn is surprised to learn she does not mind if he has concubines. Both Louise and Lena announce they want to be his concubines, and with Elise's support, Gwendolyn nervously agrees. Another brother of Gwendolyn is getting married, but everyone has their eyes now on the upcoming martial arts tournament, and Gwendolyn and his party are expected to participate because all nobles must do so at least once. Unfortunately, there is no magic division, only weapons or hand-to-hand combat. When Brantag tells Louis, Ina, and Erwin about this, they are reluctant to join. But when he mentions bringing shame to their lords if they lose in the first round, the girls go off training. Erwin thinks he has nothing to lose until Brantag says he may be cut off from the adventuring party and might be seen as a hindrance. Gwendolyn and his friends are in their training. Erwin is so pumped up for his training. And then soon another piece of news broke. Warren had decided to participate because the king told him to. If he wanted to cultivate the new generation, he had better be the obstacle for them to overcome. Erwin trains so much until his hand bleeds. On tournament day, Gwendolyn's first round opponent is Warren. He gets knocked out pretty quickly. Soon, the others will lose too, but Erwin perseveres, and he will face Warren in the final. Because Erwin is still worried about whether he can be in Gwendolyn's party, the girls show him a lunchbox Gwendolyn made. That's why the rest of the day he was so sleepy. Making lunchboxes for them is sure more tiring than fighting. Erwin is motivated after seeing that Gwendolyn considers him part of the group in the lunchbox. He goes off for the finals. Though we didn't see the results, I think I know who ultimately won. In the aftermath, Warren becomes Erwin's mentor. Also, Gwendolyn and Louise have Armstrong as their mentor. Kurt receives a letter, and he is not too happy. It might have something to do with Gwendolyn again. His wife reads it and says that Gwendolyn is dead after he explores some ancient ruins. It has been 3 years since that harsh training, and Gwendolyn is all hyped up to be an adventurer, until the king orders his party to investigate some ruins. Apparently the ruins have been investigated many times, and each time, the adventurers don't come back. It could be that there is a dragon living down there, killing them. Also, the king thinks they are fit to do this because they named their group Dragon Busters. Heading deep into the ruins, everybody is hiding behind Gwendolyn because they're afraid to be turned into ashes by the dragon. We're counting on your magic to save our lives. Then they enter a room, activate some ancient magic traps, and are teleported to the lowest floor. The only way is to go up, and they can depend on Gwendolyn's teleportation. Unfortunately, for that to work, he must know where they are. So it's up the old-fashioned staircases. However, they encounter a room filled with golem soldiers. Once they finish one wave, another comes in. Because the Dragon Busters have not emerged for 5 days, there are rumors circulating that Gwendolyn is dead. This is especially coming from factions that are opposed to him. Hence, a lord sent that letter to Kurt in hopes of having his children succeed. Dragon Busters fight until they make their way to a room with a golem dragon. The dragon fires, and even with Brantag supporting Gwendolyn with his magic, it is not enough. Until Elise gives him a spell called Miracle Light, Gwendolyn powers up to destroy the dragon. And in turn, all the golems stop moving. After that, they arrive at a library. It is said these ruins were built by Count Ickelberg as a test to see if anyone was worthy of carrying on his legacy. Then everyone gets excited as they see a legion of ancient airships that are supposed to be the core of current-day magic airships. The kingdom will purchase the entire thing about the lost magical ruins discovered by Gwendolyn's party. Gwendolyn plans to leave the capital and set up his own adventuring base outside Brightburg. Armstrong is sad but also tells him about the rumors of his death. So with Gwendolyn receiving a lot of hate from some party, his friends, being best friends, decide to leave all the money with him and avoid their share of being hated. As they talk about their new adventuring base, they think of needing someone to protect this mansion. Everyone has the same idea. Rodrich is the guy who kept bugging to be Gwendolyn's retainer for 3 years. Rodrich is so happy to finally be recognized. While they celebrated, the gang thought somebody was watching them. Too bad she got away. Dragon Busters visit the research team who inherited the ancient magic civilization. There is a device that can materialize anything you want. So the first thing Gwendolyn thinks of is a pair of panties. blame Erwin for distracting him. Then he materializes what he wants. Wendelin then hosts a party to thank all those who supported him. The main attraction of this party is his serving of tuna and soy sauce. Roderick then informs Wendelin that he has found the culprit who spread his dead rumors. It is Ruckner who is hoping to take advantage of this by making Kurt indebted to him. Roderick has taken appropriate measures, and that includes spreading rumors about Ruckner too. Though he will be investigated, it is unlikely he will be charged. Apparently, Ruckner is Roderick's father, though he was born to a commoner merchant and not his official wife or concubine. The stalker now reveals herself. She looks like she is targeting Wendelin, but she aims for the tuna instead. She is Wilma, the daughter of Lord Marshal Edgar. Wilma has been investigating Wendelin to see if he can feed her. Brantag explains that she has some superhero syndrome that makes her strong with magic 24/7. This means she needs to eat a lot and burn them up fast. So she passes Wendelin. The girls are going to have a good time feeding her. Edgar intends to introduce Wilma as his bodyguard for the monsters he'll be exterminating. Apparently, Amadeus has a request. We return to Kurt hearing news of Wendelin's death, but he is shocked to see him outside his house. Brantag explains to Wendelin's father, Sir Arthur, that the deceased expedition army, of which Alfred Rainford was part, are now zombies. As the zombies are on their land, Arthur is entitled to 30% of any profit gained from the zombies' materials. But Kurt greedily demands 50%, and tries to insist the zombie and their belongings be left in the forest instead of being given proper funerals. Wendelin realizes Kurt's animosity and jealousy towards his success and is hated by the servants and villagers who would prefer Wendelin inherit the lordship. So in the enchanted forest, they attract the undead by mocking them and calling them names, and it works. So the dumb zombies drag their way into Elise's purifying barrier. But there's still more. Undead wyvern. It takes a little more time to purify, so Wilma just cut it in half first. Not over yet. Still more. Undead boars. You know the drill. Eventually, they manage to account for every last dead soldier. After returning their armor and belongings to the villagers, it seems Kurt makes a cruel announcement that they are to hand them in to be smelted for iron to redevelop the land. The villagers can't part with their belongings, so Wendelin just drops Kurt a huge iron ore to take care of this problem. Wendelin is glad to leave when his job is over, but apparently he is told to stay until all 2,000 soldiers are identified. Hence, they attend an official funeral presided over by Elise so as to free their souls. To add insult to injury, Kurt didn't attend, though his wife, Amalie, and children did attend. Later, a villager approaches Wendelin and wants him to become the heir to this land. Apparently many villagers know this land will have no future under Kurt. Wendelin refuses, seeing as he wants to be an adventurer and he thinks the royal palace will not allow it. On the contrary, the village chief believes those at the palace want him to take up that role, and Brantag couldn't agree more with it. Brantag further explains to Wendelin that the kingdom wants to develop this undeveloped land in this domain for many years. What is stopping them is that the lords of these lands are all ordinary people. Furthermore, Kurt is a scumbag. If they forcefully remove him, this might set a precedent for other lords to fear this will happen to them too. This is where Wendelin comes in. Although Wendelin can't order his father for anything, his presence itself makes Kurt mad to the point he'll blow up and do something stupid. When that happens, their father would have to step up and replace the heir and his son, Wendelin. There might be an agenda for Kurt to kill him, and that's why Brantag has been closely watching the events unfold. Now that Wendelin has built up his assets, he can use them to develop the land when the time comes. So Wendelin thinks deeply about this. His nephews might lose the rights to the land if he becomes lord. Worse, there is a high chance that Kurt would not just get exiled, but be killed. That night, a few villagers are prepared to face Kurt and tell him they want Wendelin, only to be stopped by Wendelin and Brantag. Brantag knows the village chief is behind spreading rumors to get the people to move, so he advises the old guy not to make sudden moves that the palace will not like. The next day, Wendelin talks to Kurt and tries to ask nicely for a piece of land. Of course, Kurt will still have control and rights over his domain. He just wants to develop the undeveloped lands, and this would help everyone live better lives. But at this point, Kurt is no longer listening and believes he is just trying to swindle him, so he kicks him out. Wendelin talks to Amalie. She doesn't care what happens as long as she can protect her children. Wendelin then talks to his comrades about how he wants to become the lord of this land, and that he needs their help. Wendelin will not follow the palace's script and will not let anybody die. Dragon Buster conducts a bazaar in town. Mayonnaise is selling like hotcakes. Because their items are way better than those of Kurt's lackeys, they wonder if they should just kill him. Kurt scolds them they can't. He's a magician. Soon Wendelin confronts those lackeys and offers them some training in the capital to improve their trade. This is part of his plan to isolate everyone close to Kurt. He has had Roderick scout out some accommodations for Amelie and her sons to live in once the chaos is over. Roderick has also prepared some church institutions where Kurt will live, pray, and repent for the rest of his life after that. Kurt realizes he is all alone, and everyone has abandoned him. Desperate, he is now thinking of killing Wendelin, and some guy hands him a dragon flute that is sure to kill his youngest brother. The guy tells Kurt that, in exchange for this, he just needs to return the favor to Ruckner in the future whenever he needs it. And so Kurt confronts Wendelin, who had already anticipated this. They are shocked to see the dragon flute in his possession. He threatens to blow it up and summon an army of dragons that will wipe out the entire land. Kurt claims his people have betrayed him and his family. He can start a new one. This makes Wendelin mad, but make no sudden moves or he'll really blow it. Kurt relishes seeing Wendelin's dismayed face and blows the flute. However, evil spirits start to surround him. It is then that Brantag realizes Kurt has been duped once more. As the dragon flute is hard to get, this is actually the malice flute. It uses all your hatred and turns it into power, but in exchange for your life. So Kurt dies while summoning some giant monster. Wendelin reluctantly helps Elise to purify Kurt. With his body's destruction, the small remaining piece of Kurt's malice searches for the nobles who were responsible for his death and kills them and their family, including Baron Ruckner. In the aftermath, Roderick reports that even with Ruckner and his cohorts dead, rumors still have it that Kurt is behind this. This means Amelie cannot stay here, for she will be targeted. Later, Wendelin talks about this with Brantag and Armstrong. They think the palace is behind this, and this pisses off Wendelin because he has had it with shady moves and all that noble stuff. It's like nobody wants to take responsibility and operate in the shadows. This has made Brantag point out that Wendelin is talking as though he is a different person since he himself is a noble. This has made Wendelin think really hard about it and even ask Elise for advice. She too felt somewhat similar, so Wendelin vows to try and become a real noble. Wendelin is before the king, who rewards him with the undeveloped lands as his magic is necessary to develop them. As he is given another reward of his choice, Wendelin wants to be given the right to grant 2 titles. This incurs the wrath of the court since this is viewed as insolence toward the king. Everyone starts arguing so and so, but in the end, the king still awards those lands, gives him those rights, and promotes him to count. It is later revealed that everyone was just putting on an act for this. Wendelin talks to Amelie about the titles he will be giving them and to her sons when they come of age, and they are free to reject it when the time comes. Amelie is grateful to Wendelin and lets him know that Kurt's death was his choice. Wendelin starts developing his land. It's going to take a lot of work, but nothing can stop his dreams of making his own miso and soy sauce factory. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.